System of a Down. You know their music, right? It's absolute chaos. A wild blend of metal, prog rock, and even traditional Armenian folk. They got together back in 1994 in Glendale, California. 4 guys, all of Armenian descent, who created a sound that was just completely their own. But what if all that noise, all that incredible chaos, wasn't just random? What if it was actually a carefully constructed political language?
That's the big question we're going to tackle. We're going to explore how System of a Down's music isn't just loud for the sake of being loud. No, it's about giving a voice, a really, really loud voice, to a history that so many people have tried to ignore for a very long time.
All right, first up, let's set the scene. You have to think back to the 90s metal scene. And then there was System of a Down. I mean, they just stood out immediately. They weren't just blending genres, they were basically throwing them into a blender on high, creating something totally new and deeply connected to their roots.
So their journey started in the early 90s, and believe it or not, they were originally called Soil. Kinda different, huh? By 94, they had a new name and a whole new direction. The classic lineup we all know, Serge, Daron, Shavo, and John, was locked in by 97. And boom, just 1 year later, their debut album dropped, and the world got its first real taste of their unique brand of chaos.
And the story behind their name is pretty fascinating. It actually came from a poem their guitarist Daron Malakian wrote called Victims of a Down. But it was the bassist, Shavo Odadjian, who had this brilliant idea. He suggested swapping victims for system. And wow, what a difference. That one little word completely reframed their message. It went from being about suffering to being a critique of the very structures that cause suffering. It was a genius move that made their message so much bigger without watering it down one bit.
Now, to understand the why behind their music, we have to go back in time. We're talking about an event that has shaped Armenian identity for over a century. And for the guys in the band, this is not some abstract history lesson. It's a living, breathing trauma. We're talking about the Armenian genocide. It's the term for the Ottoman government's systematic extermination of about 1 million Armenians, starting around 1915. For the band and for so many activists, the struggle isn't just about remembering what happened. It's about fighting for official recognition against decades and decades of denial. So here's the crucial part. For Armenians who are spread all across the globe, the diaspora, their survival is deeply, deeply tied to memory. It's about keeping the history alive, honoring the trauma, and remembering a lost homeland. You know, this collective memory is the engine that drives so much of their art and their activism.
Take a look at this. This is a hashkar, an Armenian cross stone. This particular one is in Bulgaria. It's a perfect physical example of how that memory is kept alive. See, monuments like this are so much more than just stone. They become these physical anchors for a history that doesn't have a single recognized place. They're sites of memory that connect the whole global diaspora back to a shared past.
So this brings us right to the core of it all. How does a band take all this historical weight, this fight for recognition, and actually translate it into sound? Well, for System of a Down, it's all about weaponizing the very structure of their music.
Now, their lyrics are famously political, we all know that. But what we're talking about here is something even deeper. It's about how the music itself, the parts without words, like the riffs, the rhythms, the dynamics, how all that creates a physical, gut-level reaction that gets the message across before you even process a single word.
The main technique they use for this is something called musical rupture. The best way to think of it is like a sonic ambush. A song will make these sudden, jarring shifts, from quiet to loud, from clean to distorted, from melodic to chaotic, with almost zero warning. The whole point is to constantly destabilize you, to make sure you can never get comfortable.
Just look at this example from their song Holy Mountains. On one side, you've got the sheet music for the clean, almost gentle verse, and on the other, the explosive, distorted chorus. This song just lulls you into this sense of calm and then completely shatters it with raw aggression. That violent shift, that's musical rupture in action.
Let's break it down even more with their song Attack. It kicks off with this incredibly forceful, fast, distorted riff. You're bracing for impact. You're thinking, okay, here we go. And then it just stops. It gets cut off and replaced by a clean, atmospheric verse. It completely messes with your expectations and leaves you feeling disoriented. And they even do this on a tiny micro level. The chorus riff in Attack is this relentless machine of 16th notes, but it's got these little rhythmic hiccups that push it just over the edge. It's designed to feel slightly off, just a little bit out of control, and it just wraps you up in this feeling of conceptual chaos. So, here's the most crucial point. This is not just a stylistic choice. These musical ruptures are a sonic metaphor. They mirror the sudden, violent disruption of history, the violence of the genocide itself. The music isn't just telling you about chaos, it's making you feel it by committing its own kind of violence on your senses.
But this powerful way of doing things also brings up some pretty complex questions. Like, when you fight the system from the inside, do you risk reinforcing that very same system? It's a classic paradox.
Here's the dilemma. On one hand, their music is a powerful critique of the state and its role in denying history. But on the other hand, by demanding official recognition from the state, are they accidentally confirming that the state is the ultimate authority on what's true? It's a real catch-22.
The philosopher Slavoj Žižek put this perfectly. He argued that when activists make demands of a powerful entity, the very act of making that demand can actually confirm the power of that entity. By attacking it, you confirm its position. It's a fascinating problem with no easy answer, and it's something System of a Down's work really forces us to think about.
So, what's the lasting impact of this band and their unique approach to music? Let's zoom out and take a look at their legacy.
Well, you really can't argue with the numbers. 5 studio albums, 3 of which went straight to #1. A Grammy Award. Over 12 million records sold around the world. Their success is just undeniable. But their impact is so much bigger than sales. They brought a fiercely political message and a truly groundbreaking sound to the absolute mainstream. They proved that music could be a huge commercial success and be radically confrontational at the same time.
And that brings us to our main takeaway here. The true genius of System of a Down is that their music is more than just a protest song. It is the protest itself, performed. The chaos, the disruption, the rupture, it's all a sonic performance of the historical trauma and political fight they are so dedicated to. They don't just describe the struggle, they make you experience it.
Which leaves us with one last question to think about. In our modern world, which is already so full of noise and chaos and constant distraction, can an artistic approach based on disruption still cut through all of that? Can a band that weaponizes chaos still force us to stop what we're doing and truly listen?